Now, Brian, we've been getting a lot of texts as to how, because your neighbour is going for citizenship.
Yes.
And a lot of questions around what should be a question on the questionnaire. Maybe our next guest would have a few questions, having been a backpacker here once upon a time. He now is known as the Publican at the Turf, which happens to be the pub across the road from the race course. And this guy is Wayne Jones, the hero of Welcome to Wrexham. Welcome to the Run Home with Joel and Fletch. G'day, Wayne.
Thank you very much. What a lovely welcome.
Firstly, I've got a Stuart. Can I have the protest button there, please? We're testing out young Chris. You're a publican.
I am, yes.
You look way too fit to be a publican.
I've got a really good team, so I don't really actually do that much. I've probably done more work this week than I do back home. But I mean, listen, I try to stay fit. I'm 40, what am I now, 42, 43, so try and swim a couple of times a week, down the gym a couple of times a week. But the beer is too tempting, right? You just drink far too much sometimes, but try and keep it off as best I can.
So, Wayne, I want to see, how did you get in, first of all, into the pub game? Was it like is a family been involved with it your whole life, or?
No, so I did 2 years in this wonderful country, got back home. I did about 12 months in South America, got back home, and then just an elderly guy in the local pub, the Turf, was selling up, retiring, borrowed every penny my mum and dad could spare. And I remember the first night, I took about £400, and I turned to my mum and I said, now what? I didn't have a clue. I didn't know about bills. I didn't know about
year, Wayne, are we talking?
Yeah.
So we're talking 2000. So I went to New Zealand for the 2005 Lions tour, about 2000. Well, I took over the pub in June 2nd, 2008. And I remember getting my first large tax bill. And I obviously didn't put any money aside because I didn't know you get tax bills, right?
Yeah.
Some would argue I still don't know what I'm doing 17 years later. But didn't have a clue what I was doing. And here we are now, 17 years later, on the cusp of watching Wrexham at the highest ever level, sitting in Australia. It's brilliant.
So where were Wrexham FC at that? What league were they playing in when you took over the Turf?
So in 2008, when I took over, they just got relegated out of the fourth tier, which is the EFL. And we went down to National League, which is still professional, but it's out of the EFL. So the EFL is Premier League, Championship, League 2, League 1. And then you go into a separate sort of league, which is the National League. And for many a year, I blamed myself, thinking that I jinxed them. That if I sold up, maybe that they would actually get back into the Football League. Obviously, it's nothing to do with me. I just run the pub. But they were in the fifth tier, and we spent 15 horrible years there until the saviour, Rob and Ryan, come along.
The saviour. Let's get to that. Why Wrexham? How did these two Hollywood stars, like their A-list, why did they pick Wrexham?
Yeah, I mean, funny story. It's quite a long story, so I'll try and trim it down. But there's a guy that writes for Rob's show called Humphrey Carr, English guy. And he basically, big Liverpool supporter, in the green room when he writing Rob's show, he would watch Liverpool on his dinner break. Rob used to mock him for it, saying it was a really boring sport. There's too many 0-0s and all the rest of it. And then during COVID, there's another documentary, Fly on the Wall, called Sunderland Till I Die, that a lot of your listeners might have heard of. Humphrey just sent Sunderland Till I Die to Rob and said, you need to watch it, you'll maybe understand why I love the game so much.
Oh, wow.
And then Rob, obviously nobody had anything to do during COVID, right? So Rob spent, I think Caitlin, Rob's wife, went away for the weekend, and Rob binge-watched it and then phoned Humphrey and said, OK, we're going to buy a football team, as you do, when you got that much money, I guess. And then Humphrey was tasked to go out, and I think there was 5 bullet points, something like history, potential for fan base. They needed the big thing for Wrexham, I think, was that it was fan-owned, so supporter-owned, falling on hard times. And it wasn't a multi-million-pound purchase up front. They could get it for pretty much nothing with a promise to build it, which is clearly what they've done. And thankfully, they chose us because, we've hit the jackpot with them. I mean, there's so many shady owners in sport, but these guys just care about everything. So, yeah, in answer to your question, that is pretty much why. But Humphrey Carr, I mean, we owe that guy the world, because without him, we would probably still be struggling.
Chatting with Wayne Jones, a publican at the Turf Hotel there in Wrexham. For those who don't know, and you have travelled Australia, so you will probably have the answer to this. What town that you've been to in Australia would you say most resembles Wrexham?
Oh, good question. It was 20 years ago, so I would imagine they've all, changed. Wrexham certainly changed a lot in that time. But I'm a townie, so as much as I love Sydney and I love Melbourne and Perth, I get drawn to places like Newcastle and Townsville and smaller places just because. I worked in Tully. Tully was like this tiny little place in Queensland. And when I think back about my time travelling, like I say, everybody was warm and welcome, and I loved every part of it. But I think of like Tully, and I worked in Mildura, for example. I thought I was in the outback. Apparently it was about 1 centimetre around the map. And I remember phoning my mum. I was 9 hours on the ground, and I remember phoning my mum and dad saying, "I'm in the outback." and it turns out I was nowhere near the outback. But yeah, I liked I like the smaller places. I'm not a big city lover, but saying to your Sydney listeners, I apologise. But I liked Townsville, Newcastle, and whatnot. And I mean, everywhere's beautiful in this country, isn't it? It's so nice and warm. So
Wayne, can I ask you this? So they barge into town, and I believe that a lot of people at the time were not happy about it. Was there a lot of rumours about it, or was just a Band-Aid being ripped off and all of a sudden they owned the club? How did that play out?
yeah, I vaguely remember the first time it was murmured that it was going to. So we just knew that it was too high, value individuals. No, there was no names mentioned. The supporters tried to own the club. Obviously had to sign NDAs and things like that. But I remember the first time, I think it was on social media, I read it was Ryan Reynolds, and I just fell off my chair in the pub laughing. I couldn't quite believe it. I was like, really? And then when we had the fans had a Zoom call with them, because obviously it was COVID, thousands of people logged into that, and they set out their plan for the club. I think then it got a little bit more real. It still had to be signed off. It's still, obviously, because we were supporter trust owned, we had a due diligence to go through. There was a bit of scepticism because we've had so many, we've had two really, really shady owners that have pretty much stole everything from us. The land, they've built £1 million worth of flats, tens of millions pounds worth of apartments on the property, and with a promise that we would get money back into the club to run the sports side of it, and it never materialised. So there was a little bit of scepticism about why do these guys? We don't have anything left that they can take, kind of thing. But like I say, once we'd had that 20-minute Zoom call as a fan base, I think 99.7% of the fans signed it off. So that was two things. That tells me, one, people were just fed up of going almost nowhere under fan. I mean, the fan ownership's great because you're never ever going to get ripped off.
Yeah.
Every penny we generate goes back into the club, but then we don't have the power to market it like Ryan, for example, or we don't have the sponsorship power that they can pull in. So fan ownership's great, but I think people were kind of like, okay, we're treading water. We're never going to get back into that fourth tier, the EFL. We just needed somebody to come along and believe in it. It's always been a sleeping giant. It's a big club. Wrexham is only about 80,000 people, but we're in North Wales. We're the only professional football club in North Wales, and that's a catchment area of probably close to 1 million people. So. Yeah, and then we venture into Mid Wales. So yeah, I mean, and now we're getting Australians, Canadians. It
does sound Newcastle-y, Brian, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For the Aussies.
I was going to ask: is it coal mining? What's the industry there?
Yeah, coal mining was a huge industry, and that obviously that come to a stop. And then we had a massive steel industry, and that shut down. So we whacked from pillar to post, economically. And now, believe it or not, something I never thought I'd see. A large portion of our economy is tourism, which is just mind-boggling for me.
Because of this TV show?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. So we get, just the pub alone, we will get hundreds and hundreds of tourists every week just coming through the door. Yeah.
Do you reckon, now without getting into the financials, would they be, like Ryan and Rob, are they still running at a loss, do you feel, or do you think they've recouped their initial investment?
Well, so they only put, I don't know exactly, I'm just the guy next door, but they only put, I say only, they put £2 million in to get
each?
It up. No, million each, yeah. Change for the pair of them, I imagine.
Yeah,
but,
wow.
So they put £2 million in it to get it up and running. They're not playing with their money now. They've got sponsors that, United Airlines, for example, the biggest airline in the world, Expedia, HP. HP, for example, Hewlett Packard only sponsor two football teams, Wrexham and Real Madrid. So they're playing with money, and they announced publicly turnovers in League Two, which is the fourth tier when we got up to that level. They announced 25 million pound turnover in League Two, which is a record for that level ever. They will obviously announce their figures for League One, but it'll surpass 40 million, I would have thought.
So when you get you're sitting in the Championship now, is there a salary cap? Like, could they go out and get Neymar, for example, or Ronaldo? What happens with the players' wages? Is it capped?
Yeah, so absolutely. There's what's called a financial fair play. So if they turn over, for example, £40 million, I believe it's 70% of what they can spend on player wages. So what's that, 28 million, something like that?
Which would be, I'd imagine, in the Championship, which would be on the top tier?
No, believe it or not, no. I mean, there's rumours today that we've just about signed a player for £5 million, which is so far away from what I'm used to as a Wrexham fan. I'm used to rattling buckets around
wow.
to keep the lights on. So there's rumours that we're about to sign a player for £5 million. But just to give you an example, so we're in the Championship, which is one below the Premier League.
Yep.
Premier League teams that got relegated last year, which were Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton. We actually played Southampton on the first game of the season. Ipswich, I believe, spent £111 million in the Premier League. and got relegated. So that tells you we're coming up to a level where, and so Premiership teams, when they drop down to the Championship, they get a bubble payments over 2 years of like 50 million a year. So they've instantly got huge advantage.
Yeah.
And this is, listen, I mean, it's been a tough 3 years to achieve back-to-back promotions, which has never been achieved in the history of the game, is remarkable. But we're at a level now where, I mean, the fixtures come out last week. I was in Greece with my wife and I was having a coffee. The fixtures come out and then I very quickly changed to a beer because I got really worried really quickly because we're in with the big boys. But listen, this is where we've always wanted to be. You know, and I'd much rather lose to, I don't want to lose any game, obviously, no sports fan does, but I'd rather lose to somebody really big than battling around in the fifth
What's your
tier.
gut feel? Like, what would be the general sentiment for the fans as to what would be a realistic? Is it unrealistic to think you go up again?
I think so, yeah. I mean, listen, I don't want to come across as defeatist.
No.
I'm really positive by nature. But I just think two things. I think we need to respect the league, which I'm sure Ryan, Rob, the manager, the players will. But we have to respect it. But then I think we just need a dose of reality where, you know, we're on. What we have got is we've got a couple of things. So we've got momentum, which is priceless almost. You know, we got loads of momentum, and we've also got a huge never say die attitude. I mean, I would never write this manager off. So he's managed at this level twice before in really small spells. So he will be absolutely chomping at the bit to prove his doubt is wrong, that he can manage at this level, because it is a different level. And we've got just such a, for anybody that's seen the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, that you can relate to it. They never know when they beat. So I'm hoping that will just have enough to at least keep us above that relegation level. And then, you know, a year from now, if we're still in the Championship, we'll be a year wiser. You know, the stadiums won't be as big to us. They won't be as, you know, we'll be a little bit more used to them, and we'll know what the league's all about. So if you offered me personally, if you offered me to stay up, I would snap your hand off. But I think if you spoke to Rob Ryan, the powers to be, the manager, the players, they will be aiming far higher, I would think.
Can I ask you this, Wayne? So we are chatting with Wayne Evans, the publican of the turf at Wrexham. What did I say? Wayne Evans. He's an ex-Perth player. We're talking about the Perth Bears.
Everyone's a Jones.
After being a Jones, being a Welsh.
Everyone's a Jones.
Perth Bears. Wayne Evans, hello to you if you're listening.
Yeah, nice guy.
Is there a fairy tale player? So I imagine if you're starting way down here, there would be huge turnover of roster, which you kind of need to do as you go up. Is there a player who just keeps skipping through? Is there one of those players in your team?
That we've took almost on all of the journey.
Like a local kid.
Yeah. Well, we had a guy called Jordan Davis who came from the National League up until this last season. We've just let him go. And you always want to see a homegrown player do well, don't you? I mean, you want to see all the players do well. But and we had a guy called, again, for everybody that's seen the show, we had a guy called Paul Mullin, who's from Liverpool, which is only 30 miles from Wrexham, so he's as good as a local. Considers himself a Welshman, actually. But he scored 109 goals in 170 games. He was like a stellar signing for when we were in the fifth tier. Nobody believed we could get him. That was the real sort of initial marquee signing. But we've just let him go this summer. There's rumours that, you know, he couldn't get fit. He might have had a bit of a falling out with the manager. Nobody knows, hearsay and whatnot. But he's just left, so Wrexham's a little bit in mourning, because you fall in love with these players.
Yeah.
And then when you go from the fifth tier to where we are now, which is obviously the second tier, easiest way to explain it, you fall in love with them. And yes, they've done, 109 goals in 171 games at any level of football is remarkable. But, you know, and people there's a bit of an outcry why we've let him go. He's 30. He's still, I believe he's still good enough to play at that level. But, you know, the manager ultimately has won back-to-back promotions. Yeah. Who are we to argue with him? You know, he knows what he needs.
So he's gone through the journey just a bit?
Yeah, so he went from the fifth tier right up until... so he was part of the League One promotion team. Yeah, but just let him go.
When you got him, the manager, what was his highest... Was he ever coaching in the Championship when you guys got him? And
Yeah. So he was. You know, I touched on the Sunderland Till I Die documentary. He spent about 6 months there, which you shouldn't really base his career on, because that club at the time was very difficult to manage. And then he also took a team called Bolton Wanderers, who many of your listeners will know.
Jimmy Bullard,
of course, great guy, great character, my kind of guy. So he took Bolton Wanderers out of League One, which is what we've just come out of, up to the Championship, and they actually had a transfer embargo, which means he couldn't sign any players, which makes it even more remarkable that he achieved that. Didn't stick around too long in the Championship because the owners were, there was all sorts of shenanigans going on there. So I'm desperate. My little worry is that even though we've achieved back-to-back promotions, football is so fickle. You know, I mean, if he if he goes and loses, and I really hope he doesn't, if he goes and loses 5, 6, 7 games in a row, people will forget about the last 4 years very quickly,
right.
and they will just, not. So I certainly won't, and dare I say, people like me that have been through the hard times of 15 years in the fifth tier. For us, we're living our best lives. I mean, if what we don't want to do is get relegated. Nobody wants to get relegated. I think Wrexham fans of old will quite happily take 19th now and let us grow. I'm desperate for the manager to do well for 2 reasons. One, I want him to succeed at that level, and if he succeeds, we succeed. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be tough, but we're going to.
Now, Jonesy, can I ask you this? What about Rob and Ryan? What are they like? And do you get to knock around Blake Lively? Have you seen Blake? Is she nice? You know, there's all those dramas going on with that movie she was on. What's she like? Tell us exactly what she's like.
Yeah, I wish I could. I mean, I've met Ryan dozens of times, Rob dozens of times. I had plenty of beers with both of them. And lots of their friends, Will Ferrell and Channing Tatum, they're always mocking around and stuff. But weirdly,
Bruce him.
Bruce him.
So that means you're leveraging off other famous people.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
Can we get a Brucey for me wife? But weirdly, I mean, Blake's been over a couple of times, but not a drinker, so not been in the pub, so not met her. Obviously, we're aware of the stuff she's got going on in the background, which that's for her to deal with and whatnot. But Ryan is just, stupidly funny.
Does he get the humour? Oh, he's Canadian, isn't he?
Yeah.
Rob would struggle. You know how the Yanks don't get. Well, Welsh humour's very, very clever as well. Do the sarcasm, that sort of. Yeah, you tell a joke and the Yanks just stare at you.
Yeah, I think Rob's Philly, which I believe on the East Coast they're a bit more. They're a bit more like us Aussies, us British new Aussies. But Rob's a joker. Rob's just like a bottle of pop. You just can't keep him still. He's sports mad. He'd watch anything, literally anything.
Okay.
Ryan, there was question marks over whether Ryan was actually in it from the sporting perspective or the marketing business perspective. But they both love it. They both fell in love with it. They both walk in the pub now. Rob just helps himself to beers now. He just pours his own beer. But yeah, both lovely guys. Both been very nice to me. They've done so much work for charities in the town. Half it doesn't even get reported, so that tells you they're in it for the right causes.
What about this one here? Can't wait for Charlton versus Wrexham. We will smash you. LOL, fighting words. Who's Charlton? Are they your...
So Charlton, for this listener, so when we got promoted on the last day of last season, we needed to beat Charlton at home, and everybody was. So if we would have won, we would have got promoted.
Yep.
If Charlton would have won, there's a very good chance they would have got promoted. But your listener will be fully aware that we walloped them 3-0. So good luck with that one,
the pub would have been raring that night, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we were celebrating that. So, listen, Charlton, good club. Don't like their manager. He's an idiot. But,
and bad luck. Enjoy lower tiers.
Thanks for the 3 goals.
Hey, Wayne Jones, we're going to be bruising the hell out of this conversation. So thank you, mate, for coming in. Welcome to Wrexham. That's a show if you have not yet seen it. But you can get yourself, you got tickets to tomorrow night's match against the Sydney FC, 30,000 plus at Allianz. Get your tickets at Ticketek or call in now. If you want a double pass to attend the match at Allianz Stadium in the break, first to call in, we'll get our man here, Wayne, to draw out one of the lucky numbers out of a hat, and you'll win the pair of tickets to
quick one. I just
Wrexham
want
and
to ask
Allianz.
Jonesy, what is, you watch our A-League? Have you seen the standard? What would our, compared to over in the UK, are we like Division 5?
No. I watched them against Melbourne the other day, and I believe they rested several players and they give us a game. So I would say lower league championship, top end of League One. So top end of Tier 3, top end of basically Division 2. What we're in now would be, I think most of them would compete in the championship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting.
Wayne Jones, thank you very much, mate. We might have to get ourselves into a live broadcast from the pub, the Turf over there in Wrexham. Brian, mate, we appreciate that. You're an absolute talent. We appreciate it. All the best to Wrexham. Not too much luck because we love our A-League and the Sky Blue, don't we, Brian?
Well, we do. But this is going to put us on the map.
Yes.
Is Blake coming out by any chance?
Yeah, I'm as desperate as you guys to meet her, so hopefully.
We don't drink either, so if she needs somewhere to hang out, she can come out and hang out with us. What, you're still here? Well, you can see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio, you beautiful humans.